What is going on Saturday night? Welcome to the crossover. Whether you are joining us live on video or catching this on the podcast, thank you so much for joining in. I am Ryan in Sacktown. So happy to have you here again. If you did not catch the last episode of the crossover, please go check that out. Jerry Reynolds was our guest, and it was a great time breaking down Game 5, talking about Game 6, which the Kings won. It is less than 18 hours away from Game 7. Game 7, guys. All the marbles. Kings, Warriors at Golden One Center. My goodness, I can't imagine the atmosphere. I can't imagine what it's going to be like to be in that building tomorrow. But one thing that I can imagine is how great this season has been, regardless of the outcome tomorrow. It has been just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful ride. And tonight, we've got our favorite guy coming in. You guys know him as Sea Dog, but Connor Danzi, he's going to come in. We're going to talk some Game 7. We're going to talk some Game 6. And we're just going to preview things and get you ready for tomorrow. 12:30 tip time for the Kings and the Warriors will be the national game. All eyes on Sacramento. But hey, speaking of that, make sure that you catch the pregame show, Kings pregame show, with myself and Grant Napier. We're going to be having the pregame, halftime, and postgame shows all for you. Game 7, win or lose, we will be there. That is on Grant Napier's channel. If you don't like that, you can also catch the links at his Twitter at Grant Napier Show. You can also find those on mine. But without further ado, let's bring my man in, Connor Danzi. He is our Brian Windhorst. He is our Woj. He's our Adam Schefter. He's everything all in one when it comes to sports and Sacramento Kings. Connor, what's up tonight, buddy?
Not much. Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking, man. This is your first time around with the Kings playoffs. Did you knock it out of the ballpark or what?
It's just been a dream. The way that this series has gone, playing the Warriors especially, and to get this to Game 7, it's been a fairy tale season, and hopefully there's a couple more chapters in the book.
No doubt. We'll see tomorrow. Let's go Kings. That is right. Let's go Kings. Yeah, get your chats in here. We would love to take your questions as we get more into this. So thank you for joining the show. If you are listening on the podcast version, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast and give us a rating. We'd really appreciate that. Yeah, Connor, going into Game 6, I really felt like the Kings were kind of playing with no pressure. It felt like water off the duck's back because Game 5, for whatever reason, had that pressure-packed feeling. What was that like for you as a fan watching it, and how did you think the team was going to come in and handle it?
Yeah, they were playing with a lot of confidence and playing with house money. I think a lot of people around the city of Sacramento and especially the national media were kind of writing them off like they have all year. A
Right.
lot of people thought that the season was basically over for the Kings, and it was going to take a really good performance to beat the Golden State Warriors in their own building. And I don't think there's a single person that expected the blowout that we really got in Game 6.
Yeah, I don't think anyone expected a blowout or expected that the Warriors would be putting in their subs come, 3-4 minutes left in the game. In fact, a lot of people were predicting it the other way, that it was going to be a blowout of the Kings. A lot of people thought the Kings would not be in the game, but for whatever reason, they just did what they needed to do to stick around. Did you feel that was more of what the Kings did in Game 6 to win the game, or more of what the Warriors didn't do?
I think it's what the Kings did do. They came in, they were playing confident, they were playing locked in completely, and it seems like they hit their stride in this game. The Warriors, they did it in Game 3 when they took care of business and had the blowout. The Kings did the same in Game 6 where they were in control of the game from basically start to finish, and it was close a lot of the game, but they pulled away in the fourth.
Yeah, they did pull away in the fourth. That one Warriors run, Grant always talks about that. That run that the Warriors always go on. You feel it kind of boiling up, and you expect it, but it never really happened in Game 6. And I think it was a combination of turnovers, good defense, and good coaching. Actually, I think Mike Brown coached a really, really good game.
Yeah, I thought he coached maybe the best game that he has all season with the moves of Terrence Davis, who we've both been critical of on these
Yeah.
shows, but he came in and he played his role. You have 6 fouls off the bench with a utility guy like him. Why not use him and make an impact? And I thought he played some good defense, and he was just a pest out there, and he hit a couple shots. So that's just an added bonus for how good the bench has been this year.
Yeah, you talk about Davis. We have been critical of him, but I was sitting there with Napes, and I'm like, well, yeah, you could put Davis in and maybe get a spark on offense, but he's going to get killed on defense. He was awful when he got a little bit of run earlier in the series, and surprisingly, his defense was really, really good. And I feel like defense was one of the driving factor. They held him to 99 points. Troy, thank you so much for being here. Troy has a question. We'll both hit this. Connor, what are your thoughts on Alex Len not playing in the game or in Game 6?
Yeah, I thought it was just another one of the examples on why Mike Brown coached such a good game. It was an adjustment that I don't think a lot of people were expecting, but especially with Sabonis getting into foul trouble, that small ball lineup with Trey Lyles at the 5 was working wonders, and it was incredible. They were hitting their shots, especially with Monk out there, and it just didn't seem like it was affecting them on the boards either. With Alex Len not being out there,
Right.
they had one of their best rebounding games of the series, and I thought it worked out really well. Sitting him, obviously, if he's needed in Game 7, he could see the floor, but you have to like what that rotation did off the bench with Lyles.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you. I think the small ball, so much like the Warriors when Draymond Green got suspended, and they started Jordan Poole, and they kind of found some success. They kind of found a little bit of gold, going to a smaller lineup and bringing Draymond off the bench. I feel like the Kings, when Trey Lyles is hitting his shots, when Monk is on. When Mike Brown put that lineup in and played small, that was a little bit of gold for the Kings. And I think that was one of the huge adjustments that led to them winning. So, in terms of Len not playing in Game 6, I think he wouldn't have fit in. It would have kind of changed things around a little bit, the way the Kings were playing. It may have changed what Golden State did if Alex Len was getting minutes. But yeah, I think you'll probably see Mike Brown throw the kitchen sink at the Warriors in Game 7, just like he did in Game 6. So you brought up Sabonis, and I think that's a really interesting conversation. Coming into Game 6, he was a minus 38 in the season or in the series. Think about that for a second, Connor. Minus 38, and there was a moment during Game 6 where it's like, hey, is this team in the lineup they had and the style of basketball that's being played with the Warriors and the way Sabonis is playing, was this team better served with Sabonis actually fouling out and being on the bench?
I think that they were. I think it worked well when he was getting in the foul trouble and a lot of calls that I didn't think were deserving of fouls, but it opened up that door for Trey Lyles to come in, and he was hitting his jump shots. The team, they're playing so together as a group with that 5, and it's just another one of those lineups. Mike Brown had been all season, and he found out a way to get a 5 that was working, and unfortunately Sabonis wasn't out there, but in the playoffs it doesn't matter if he's your all-star, your all-NBA guy. If you're not producing, you can sit right next to him because Mike Brown's going to do what's best for the team to win a game, especially if we're talking about a Game 7 win or go home.
Yeah, he is. And with Sabonis, it's one, he's gotten the crap beat out of him in this series. Let's lay that on the line. Two, a lot of people saying, he may be hurt with the sternum, the Draymond stomp. And that's affecting his shot, right? And that's affecting his free throws. Well, I think the other thing that we're not really looking at is confidence. Nobody has guard. Well, maybe one team, Toronto. earlier in the season. And we had this conversation, Connor. Was that a blueprint to stop the Kings, right? Because Toronto came into Golden One and just completely shut them down, what they did offensively, and they played a similar defense against Sabonis. But the confidence of Sabonis seems a little bit shaken. Like, why are these guys giving me 15 feet to, just shoot if I want? He didn't know what to do. But I think it's a mixture of the two. I think there is something to the sternum now. I think he's having a hard time because he consistently can hit that shot, but seeing him, I should say the three ball, he's been pretty consistent, middle range, so. But he can hit that shot normally, and he just seems like he doesn't, he's not sure what to do. Does he seem like he's not making quick decisions to you? Like, what do you think the problem is for him?
Yeah, I think the problem is that the whole thing with him being expected to take that elbow jump shot in the space they're giving him is it's very disrespectful, obviously, but we've seen him take that shot and obviously it hasn't been consistent and it hasn't really been falling at the rate you'd want it. So I think it's time to move off of that. The sternum could be a factor, but we've seen he only had 7 points in game 6, but he hit a corner 3. And the key with Sabonis, he just needs to get in the paint, go to that spin move. If he was given that much space by guys like Draymond Green, attack him with that spin move that he does and just lay it in, body the players down low and score. I think that Game 7 is a time where Domantas Sabonis needs to be the best player on the floor. He needs to have a career game. And in order for the Kings to win, he's going to have to score and find ways more than one to score other than just the jump shot. And another thing, he had 0 free throws in Game 6. That's
Right.
not a recipe for success with a guy that plays so close to the basket.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm not, I know you aren't, I'm not a big officiating person, like, oh, it was terrible. They missed this, they missed that. But that game was not officiated well on both sides of the ball. So, that could have played into it, but definitely most of it is Sabonis's play. I think the Kings kind of found gold, and Troy has another question about Herter, or a prediction about Herter. But I think it leads to the next thing. The Kings ended up some of the time putting Sabonis down low and then running the dribble handoff with other guys at the top of the key instead of having Sabonis there. And I thought that was really effective. That's what got the ball moving again. And, when the ball moves for the Kings usually rack up a lot of assists and they score a decent amount of points. So now, getting to Kevin Herter, I thought, obviously the shot was struggling in game 6, but the defense was great by Kevin. The defense was absolutely awesome. But then he starts getting on, he hits a couple shots, and, kind of looking like the old Kevin. So do you think that was just, a couple shots here, a couple shots there? Do you think he's going to break out or have to break out in order for the Kings to win game 7?
Yeah, go back to us talking about Mike Brown and how well he's coached. That's phenomenal coaching from him to stick with a guy that's been terrible in this series. He knows that he has it in him to make some shots. He elevated his defense in the game, and then at the end of the game, Mike Brown had him with the core in the lineup when Monk and other guys would usually be replacing him, and he made a big corner 3, and he made a nice step back 3 that was
Yep.
awesome and in rhythm, and that started to get him going. That could be a sign of Game 7 of him finally cracking out of the slump that he's been in. And I think for this team to hit their full potential, which I don't think they have yet in this series, Kevin Herter can go for 17 to 20 points and make his shots.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, I think he can go for 17 to 20 if the Kings are playing the style of basketball like they did in game 6, where they're sharing it, where, there's a lot of pick and roll, which I think has been neglected. They got to do more pick and roll. Sabonis and Monk pick and roll, awesome. Throw him a curveball. Do a Fox Monk pick and roll. Who are you going to switch on? That's going to be a tough switch. So I think that's really important too. So, anyways, let's get to game 7. What are your initial thoughts about game 7 on how the Kings need to play this, and what are you looking for in the first 5-6 minutes of the game from the Kings?
Well, in Game 7, the atmosphere is going to be unlike it's ever been in that building. And you got to feed off of that. You need to come out in the first 5 minutes, punch the Warriors directly in the face like you did in Game 6. They went up 8-0, hit some shots, and it was a good start. And to be honest, the Warriors never recovered from being down 8 early. So what the Kings need to do, come out, make your shots, instill the confidence in your shooters, give Keegan Murray some looks, drop some plays for Kevin Huerter. And then at that 6 minute mark when Malik Monk comes in, hopefully you already have a little 5-6 point lead, and you can only add on to that from there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I think what I'm looking for is to see the Kings not be completely uptight, right? You can see when they're loose and you see when they're playing kind of stiff. And that's when I get worried because that's when they, start turning the ball over. I guess it's not turning the ball over, they overthink things. And you can see that where they have a good shot, but instead they make an extra pass instead of taking the shot. And I want to see guys demand the ball too. Keegan Murray, for instance, game 5, he hits a bunch of threes in the first quarter, doesn't take a shot the rest of the game. So you got to go to your hot hand. But I certainly think too, on top of that, there is no restriction on minutes, obviously, in this game. You've got the Lakers waiting for you in a couple days, or whichever team wins will have the Lakers. But, if you need to go to the bench 2 minutes into the game, 3 minutes into the game, Mike Brown needs to do that. Like, I don't want to see that set schedule. He needs to call quick timeouts if things are not going well. And the other thing is, I think you got to kind of play off of how the Warriors come out too. I mean, think about the experience they've had. They've won 4 of the 8 last championships. So, they are, regardless of the atmosphere that it's going to be in Sacramento, which is it's going to be nuts. Regardless of that atmosphere, that's not going to shake them. They've been here before. They've been in every situation. So, anyways, I think that first 5-6 minutes is absolutely crucial to the Kings. Whether they hang with them or they have a small lead, they've got to be right there with the Warriors.
Yeah, and the stat that keeps coming back to me, I keep having to bring up with the Warriors' experience and everything. People think that maybe that's not so important, but the Golden State Warriors, since their dynasty began in 2014-15, have never lost a postseason series other than in the NBA Finals. So the Kings are looking to make history here and to end the dynasty. It's going to be very difficult. The Warriors have been here as many times as you can expect. They've been in Game 7 of the Finals before. They have guys like Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, but I think it's going to come down to the other two guys, Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole, who had one of the worst played basketball games I think I've ever seen in my life in Game 6 with he just played like he was out of control and throwing up shots and stuff. You need to expect him to come out and play his best in Game 7.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of a albatross for him, right? Because he's played excellent all series. Speaking of Wiggins, Poole, he's unpredictable, right? I mean, he's either really good for them and very hard to stop, or he's all over the place and he's your best player if you're the Kings. But I think when you look at Golden State's unit, you cannot have Wiggins with 20, Poole with 10, 15, and Draymond with 15 or 20. That is going to kill the Kings. Yes, Steph and Klay are going to get theirs. You have to bet on that. But the guys around them, you've got to stop 2 of those 3, don't you think, Connor?
Yeah, you do, because like Curry's done all series and even in Kings wins, you can expect him to get about 30 points, Klay to score about 20, but the big factor, Andrew Wiggins, if he seems to just quietly score 20 on any given night. And you saw what Draymond Green did in Game 5, scoring, I think, the first 20-point game he's had since 2019. And then if any of their other bench players like DiVincenzo or Kuminga come in and make an impact on the game, that's going to make life very difficult. So the key is, Curry and Klay, they're going to get their stuff. They're going to hit their shots. You can't really stop them. You can only hope to contain them. But if you can keep a lid on them, let's say hold them under 50 points, and don't let anyone else score over 20, that's a recipe for success.
Yeah, it is. You're right, and we're talking about the offensive side of the ball. We haven't even talked about defense. And if you look at the one common thread in all three games that the Kings have won in this series, it has been defense. And it's Mike Brown taking it with his decision making on what they're running defensively and how they're playing Curry, how they're playing Thompson. He has made a huge difference when the Kings dictate the terms of how the game's going to be played defensively. When they're not allowing second shots. Looney, how many times has he had 20 rebounds this series? It's nuts. So in those 3 wins, the Kings have limited the Warriors to all those things. So I think when you look at game 7, defense is the route for the Kings to win this game.
Yeah, I totally agree. Mike Brown, defensive coach, we finally start to see that
Yeah.
connection actually occur on the court. But with how bad the defense was in the regular season and how high octane the offense was, it's good to see the defense finally string together some stops. And I think two of the biggest keys on that end, obviously rebounding. I think Looney had 13 rebounds, which is still a lot, but if you can get the rebounds and limit their offensive second chances, which just seem to have happened so much with the
Yep.
struggles of Sabonis. And then one more thing with, I've seen it too many times in this series, they're going under on the screens on Steph Curry. That
Yes,
just
they are.
it just leaves him wide open. He's going to hit that 9 times out of 10. I've seen Mitchell do it a couple times, and obviously, as a basketball player, it's the opposite of what you're taught growing up playing the game. But Steph Curry, you need to plan differently with a guy like him because he's a whole different animal.
Yeah, the problem is they're hedging, right? So the guy that or the man whose man is doing the screening, once Steph comes off that screen, the Kings defender is stepping out towards Steph for that initial pull if Steph's going to maybe do it while Davion goes under. And that is a big problem because what have we seen the Warriors do nonstop? Pump fakes. We've talked about this before the start of the series. Don't leave your feet. Don't go for the pump fakes. And we've seen numerous times where shooters have been fouled from beyond the 3-point line, that have been fouled on the perimeter because they bite for a pump fake. And so you are spot on about under the screens. But if you go over the screens, then that's going to set up a recipe for them to slip screens. That's going to set up a recipe for the screener to be open on the roll. And if I'm the Kings, I'm letting the roller beat us and not let Steph beat us. Just like they're saying, hey, Sabonis, if you want to shoot that 15, 17 footer, then beat us. Beat us. So I would like to see them go over. Do you see any other benefits of them going over, Connor?
Yeah, I thought you worded it perfectly. You want Steph Curry to be the guy. You don't want him to beat you. You'll happily take, obviously, you got guys like Moses Moody, Jordan Poole,
Right.
Andrew Wiggins, DiVincenzo that are going to be open in the corner on those screens. But I'd rather have them make a couple shots and see if they can hit them than have Steph Curry get a routine shot for him that he makes almost every time. And we've seen him make it every time in this series. It
Yeah.
just doesn't seem like the Warriors shooters with Curry and Clay have missed their opportunities that they get. Like Clay Thompson, he uses the pump fake masterfully to
Yep.
get to his spots and he makes a shot. So it'll be interesting to see if they make any adjustments defending those two, but they've done a pretty good job. But you have to expect Steph Curry to have a monster game.
Yeah. This is Steph Curry time. But hey, who's the clutch player of the year? His name's De'Aaron Fox, and he stays in Sacramento. Let's talk about Fox for a second. Because I felt like game 5, he played great in the first half. The finger in the second half got to him. Fourth quarter, he was in a ton of pain, and understandably so. I thought in game 6, it certainly he still is going to be having discomfort, but game 5 taught him boundaries, what he can and can't do without over, extending or putting that finger out to possibly, get hit in a certain spot. And he played great. I didn't really notice the finger all game. And I think he's got to do a little bit of the same in game 7. And I think they've got to delegate some of the ball handling duties to Kevin Huerter. They've got to delegate to Davion, even if Fox is on the floor. Hell, you could do it to Sabonis as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the only thing I noticed with Fox's finger in Game 6 was his ball handling ability was reduced a little bit at times, but he still put up the monster game. The only thing that sticks out to me is that he only had 4 free throws. As a guy that is supposed to get to the paint at will, you're expecting a lot more free throws from him. But
Yeah.
Malik Monk basically took all of that under his arms, basically, with the way that he attacks the rim, the way he attacks the basket. I mean, what a steal of a signing that is. How many times did De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk, one drove to the basket and kicked to the other in the corner? Happened 3 times in a row, I believe, in the third quarter, and it was
Yeah.
working like magic, and there was nothing the Warriors could do to stop it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I am going to say on the flip side, and this kind of goes to your comment, F, small ball again until the Warriors adjust if they can. Kings need to attack the paint, get to the free throw line. Yes, but here's the problem I have with the Kings attacking. There are a lot of times, and Monk is guilty of this too, where they attack and they have no idea what they're going to do. They have no idea in their head of what play they're going to make, and they get caught right there on the lower baseline under the hoop. And they're jumping in the air, they're throwing a bad pass to the corner. They get a shot blocked. It needs to be more strategic when they're taking it to the hole. Now, I will give Monk a pass on that. If Monk is Monk, okay? He has proven his athleticism. He can make plays that other guys can't do. But if you're Davion Mitchell, if you're Terrence Davis, any of those guys, even Kevin Huerter to a degree, usually Kevin doesn't go baseline. He goes more towards the middle. You got to have something in mind when you're attacking, and you can't just attack to attack.
Yeah, there's one of two options when you attack the basket. It's to finish through contact and get 2 shots, or maybe even 3 points with an and one, or kick it out to a teammate that's most likely open in the corner, like Trey Lyles or Kevin Huerter. Obviously, you can't just go into that with when you're stuck in midair deciding whether to shoot or pass, and that's when the Warriors will pounce on you and force some turnovers.
Yeah, and exactly, and with the small ball element, just because you're playing small ball doesn't mean that you can't still attack, right? If you've got a favorable matchup on you, post up, and we've seen Harrison Barnes do that. He did that in the third quarter of Game 5 a ton. That's how the Kings kind of started to mount that comeback until Monk caught on fire. But there's ways that those guys can still attack the paint, get to the free throw line. And I think even when they're attacking, Connor, have you noticed, or is it just me? The Kings seem like they have been too unselfish at times, churning up, good shots, trying to get like a really, really good shot, even though you're 2 feet from the hoop.
Yes and no. I mean, I mentioned the playmaking of Monk and Fox and how that's worked, but there's also been turnovers on plays like that before. But I think that a lot of that has to do with the confidence of the shooting, how awful it had been in the series before Game 6, and
Yeah.
maybe that kind of second of indecisiveness to whether to let it rip or not. But it seems like it's kind of next man up when someone else doesn't have the confidence to take the shot. They'll create for their teammate, and it seems like that strategy has been working pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. It depends on who has the ball, though. But anyways, all right. So, you had the Kings in 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Grant had Kings, or no, he had Warriors in 6. Jerry had Kings in 7. I had Warriors in 7. Hopefully, I am wrong. What do you think? Where do you think the score needs to be tomorrow for the Kings to win this ball game?
Well, I think the Kings have shown the versatility that they can win a low scoring game and they can win a high scoring game, but I'd probably lean more towards a lower scoring game, maybe the
Yeah.
110s to the 100s kind of thing, like they did in Game 6, because the Warriors, if they're scoring 130 something points, that most likely means that Steph and Clay are cooking and somebody else has stepped up. So you really want to see them score lower because that means that the Kings have done a good job containing their other role players, and
Yep.
Steph Curry and Clay haven't exploded for career nights.
Amen to that. What is up? Go Kings. That's right. That is right. Thank you for joining the show, Jeannie. So yeah, I would prefer to see a low scoring game as well. I think that's where the Kings have thrived. I wanna I think the Kings are in good shape, and Grant always preaches assist to turnover ratio. It's the first thing he looks at, but in the first halves of the last few games, including Game 6, which the Kings won, they had double digit turnovers. And I think you absolutely have to be in the single digits tomorrow. And I think the assists have to be in double digits in the first half. And, I also hope that they are able to find a way with the offense that the Kings prefer to run it, maybe just not through Sabonis, and find another way for him to be effective. So if we're going that way, Connor, how else do you think you can draw things up for Sabonis, or how can you make him or put him in spots to be successful outside of being at the top of the key and facilitating?
Well, you do what's worked in the regular season because that's a much bigger sample of games that he played in the regular season, and obviously it worked well enough for him to be on the All-Star team. You have to get him the ball down low, have him have his back to the basket. That's where he has his hands looking for shooters. But he needs to be more aggressive and more selfish in Game 7 with getting his baskets early. He can go to that little half hook. He can go to his spin move. He can go to that little Rashawn Holmes-esque push shot from the key.
Yeah.
And he needs to find a way to score a lot of points. And if he can get in the double digits in the first quarter, that's a really beautiful sign for the Kings.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see this one being a blowout for the Kings. The Kings are not going to blow out the Warriors again. But I do think if the Warriors get up big fairly early, the Kings may not ever get the lead again. I mean, what's your gut feeling on how this one's going to play out, and then I'll give you mine after that.
Yeah, it's a question mark. Obviously, Game 7 is a rarity for the Sacramento Kings, and it's the exact opposite for the Golden State Warriors. Everything, if you're a betting man, you would put everything on the Warriors because what they've done in the past, the championships they have, the personnel they have, the coach they have, they've been there, done that in every situation, and they're so professional and everything. But the Kings, they have the young team. They can play without a lot more pressure on them. The Warriors have as much pressure as any team's had in a long time on them. This is their dynasty slipping out the door, and let's see if they can hold it in for a little bit longer because the Kings, this is year one of a 5-6 year process that could turn into consistent playoff appearances. This is year one, and look what they've been able to do already. And if they can win this game, which I've predicted that they would win in 7, then I don't think there's any team in the West that can beat them if they go through the Warriors because what they've done against this team, it's been so impressive. And you asked how are they going to win this game? They're going to win this game by making their three-pointers, getting to the charity stripe, and winning the rebound battle.
Yeah, I would agree that those are the three categories that they absolutely have to win. And it's funny that you bring that up because a lot of the people that I've talked to that are not on the West Coast, they're Midwest, East Coast, that haven't stayed up to watch the Kings all season. They're getting their first taste of the Kings other than maybe one national TV game. And they're like, this is the best first round series. This is one of the best Western Conference series I can remember in a very long time. These two teams. And they said the team that comes out of this is the best team in the West right now because you have Phoenix that looks like, they're just kind of bored. They don't want to be there. They don't have a second guy stepping up. Durant looks a little step slow. They're disinterested. And, Denver's Denver. And the Lakers, you can make an argument they're hot as well. And I mean, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but this thing's wide open because I guarantee if the Warriors come out victorious tomorrow, they are the favorites to go into the Western Conference Finals. So, anyways, I think, yeah, tomorrow it's going to have to be the three things you talked about. I also think that the Kings have no chance if Malik Monk is not, in that 25 to 30 point range. He absolutely has to be in that range. And the Kings have to find a way to make him a focal point of the offense when he is in the game, regardless of who else is on the floor. And that doesn't mean him just creating with the ball. That means if somebody else has a ball or has the ball, find ways to get Malik open, whether it's coming off of a curl, whether it's a back cut. You've got to get him involved because he is your scorer in this game. No doubt about it. Fox, he's going to be strong. Finger will be fine. In fact, I think Fox will probably play a little better than he even did in game 6 because he's gotten even more used to playing with that finger. But it's the kitchen sink where the Kings are going to have an unsung hero. But ultimately, I think they grind it out and they win this game. I think it's going to be low scoring. But if the Kings come out, Connor, one thing you did not mention about the three things they have to do, if they do not defend like they defended in games 1, 2, and 6, the Kings will lose this game.
Yeah, it's a great point you bring up. They're done if Steph Curry's getting clean looks, Klay Thompson's getting clean looks. You have to have Davion Mitchell continue to be the pest that he's been in this series. Terrence Davis, if he can give you some of that and have Davion Mitchell rub off on him a little bit, that's obviously nothing bad can happen there. But you talk about Malik Monk and what he means to this team. He's been the second best King in this series and probably the third best player on either side in this series. And he needs to play like he's their point guard off the bench. I know people say it's Davion Mitchell and stuff. Malik Monk is the playmaker, the scorer that comes off the bench, and he basically decides if the Kings win the non-Curry minutes or not with his play.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it. And Mike Brown, it was curious because anytime Curry was after the initial start, anytime Curry was on the floor, Davion would be on the floor. And in game 6, he didn't do that as much. Towards down the stretch, he made sure that Davion was on Curry, but in the middle of the game, middle second, start of the third, middle third, he was not doing that. He was confident with the guys that were on the floor guarding Curry. But you got to make things hard for those guys too. One of the things they did in game 1 is they pushed them out. Like they literally made the Warriors start their offense from further away, not at the 3-point line. And sure, can they create? Does it open up passing lanes? Does it open up lanes for them to drive to the hoop? Yeah. But that's why you have your backside defense waiting for them, and you make sure. And the Kings, hey, you got to give them credit. They have been great on their rotations. How many blocks have we seen from the weak side, whether it's Kevin Huerter, Keegan Murray? They have been great with all that. So I think they need to do that. And then back to offense, there's too many games where Grant and I sit there at halftime and one of the starters has no points, whether it's Keegan, whether it's Kevin, whether it's Harrison. That can't happen tomorrow. If that happens tomorrow, it's a problem because everybody needs to be involved.
Yeah, and something we haven't really talked about is Harrison Barnes and how his minutes were extremely reduced in Game 6 because of the play of Lyles and Monk that he didn't really see. I think he only had 15 minutes, and obviously that's going to cause him to score less, but you can't have a donut hole at the box score at the end of the game, much less halftime, because we know what Harrison Barnes means to this team and what he can do. He's their veteran guy that can get you a basket when everyone else is struggling and get to the charity stripe and calm things down when the Warriors are going on their run. So I think that he's a huge piece of this team, and you need to expect his best. Obviously, he's had a lot of troubles with the Warriors in the past with his finals appearance and that missed shot that he had earlier in this series.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he caught a lot of flack for that. I thought that was the funniest thing because had he made that shot, he would have been like the hero. Like Barnes jerseys in Sacramento would have been sold out everywhere. All right. Freight Train 56 has Kings 120, 118. Nick is going Kings 123, Warriors 116. Yeah. I kind of like that range that you guys are at. I think you absolutely to win the game have to keep the Warriors under 120. Um, what do you think about that comment?
Yeah, I like that range of scoring too
Yeah.
for either side because that's more on the low scoring end. Obviously, you look at 120s and the high one teens, that's not usually a low scoring game. But in today's NBA, you'll
Right.
gladly take that. And if the scores are that tight, what a game it would turn out to be. And that would just be incredible to have the two teams in late in the fourth battling and trading baskets. Could you just imagine the nervousness and excitement from Kings fans if they can win the game?
Oh yeah, people are gonna be, just incredibly wound up and looking at every little thing. But like to that point, I hope that people can enjoy the game and just sit back and realize you are in a game 7 and you guys have played a wonderful series. You are on the map now in the NBA. De'Aaron Fox is now a superstar. You mentioned him with John Morant. You mentioned him with SGA. You mentioned him with all those other guys that have taken that next step. This is built to be here and for years to come. And so just enjoy it. Don't turn the bobbleheads if somebody dribbles the ball off their foot. Like, just enjoy the game. Nick says he is a Warriors fan, but whoever wins, please. I think he means beat the Lakers. Yeah, I agree with that, Nick, for sure. Oh my God, can you imagine Sacramento if there's a second round Lakers Kings series?
That would be the two best matchups that you could have dreamed of with the Warriors in the first round and then the Lakers in the second round. I know the NBA wants their Steph Curry versus LeBron James saga to continue, but
Yeah,
to revive the Kings Warriors of the early 2000s, it'd be a treat for NBA fans.
that would be nuts if that happened. But at the same time, if it is the Warriors, that's still a pretty good series. And Nick, at least I can speak for myself. I would be rooting for you against the Lakers. I would not be rooting for the Lakers. What about you, Con?
I don't know. I'd be really torn on that because I despise the
Really?
Warriors and their players more than I despise LeBron James and Anthony Davis. But I'd probably just sit that one out and enjoy some close games.
You're gonna be Switzerland on that one. Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, what are you doing for the game tomorrow, man?
Gonna not break character with what I've been doing, watching with my family. It's worked so far, so good. So game 7, hopefully they can get the win and the superstitions can come out victorious.
Do you guys got some family superstitions?
Yeah, we do a bunch of chants and everything during the game, and if we say one of the chants and it doesn't go well, we don't say it again for the rest of the game.
Interesting. Who started that?
I think just me and my dad have done it. We have a few we run through with defense and clapping and stuff, so it's pretty
Th-
fun.
That is awesome. That is so good. Yeah, I've got a couple too. I have to eat before halftime. Cannot eat after halftime. That's a problem. Couple of little ones. We were doing Napes and I the colored shirts where he had to wear a certain color and because they went up 2-0 and we were wearing opposite colors, but then we just threw it out the window. But yeah, that's gonna be great, man. Hey, stay available. I may have some time for you to come on tomorrow for game 7. Will that work out for you?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool, 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 cool. Well, we're probably gonna wrap this up now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know a lot of Kings fans are either going to have a sleepless night or just gonna stay up all night and be ready to go and just stay up through in the game. But either way, have a great night. Tomorrow is going to be an extremely special day. Connor, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I will probably be talking to you tomorrow sometime on Grant's channel, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. Last thing before I go,
Yeah.
message. I think Carmichael Dave said it best. They went from a 7-0 vote to avoid relocation to a game 7 in the playoffs. Just let that sink in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's a great line. Dave's good for one of those every now and then, for sure. Thank you, Freight Train. We appreciate it. We always like coming on here and giving a good discussion, open forum, and we appreciate all you guys participating as well. So we will see you tomorrow. Con man, have a great night, okay?
You too. Peace out, guys.
Later. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for tonight. But everybody, enjoy the game tomorrow. Again, we will be back, or I will be back tomorrow on Grant's channel, pregame, halftime, and postgame. Jerry Reynolds is also going to join us for postgame as well. It's always fun when he drops in. But yeah, this is, here's my superstition. This was the shirt that they gave out at the first game this year. Oops, sorry, man. This is the shirt that they gave out at the first game this year, and now the team's wearing it as a shoot around shirt. So I have to wear this shirt the night before a game. So there's a little Rhino superstition, but we all have ours. There's no doubt about that. But tomorrow's going to be a special day, and regardless of the outcome, it's going to be a big day for Sacramento. And it's really going to put this team on the map. I mean, to see how this team has played in the playoffs, just even looking ahead to free agency and things of that nature, there's a lot of positive that even just being in a series like this and making it to a game 7 that benefits the Kings, because think about how free agents never wanted to come to Sacramento. Never, ever, ever. Even guys traded here, they did not want to come. Chris Webber. But now Sacramento is a fun place. You've got a players coach that knows what he's doing. I mean, unanimous coach of the year. First time that's ever happened in the NBA, right? And you have guys that they get along. They have fun. That is a place you want to be. And then on top of that, look at the fans. Like Sacramento, if we look at this objectively, if this was another team and I was watching all of this kind of start to boil to the surface, I am saying that team, if they stay on this track, will win a championship in 2 or 3, 4 years. I really am. And so it's really hard because we're all so close to it, but that's what is building right now. And so anyways, hopefully tomorrow, game 7, the Kings put a cherry on this already magical season, and we move on and we see the Warriors and we see what happens next. But if that doesn't happen, that's okay too. This team has given us one hell of a ride this year, and I know I am very appreciative of that. So anyways, thank you guys so much for joining the crossover. Again, tomorrow on If You Don't Like That, we will have pregame coverage starting at 12 o'clock. We'll also have halftime coverage. And then after the game, we'll have postgame, wrap it all up. Grant will be there. Jerry Reynolds is going to join in. So please make sure you join us for that. That's on Grant's channel. If you don't like that, you can go to his Twitter handle at Grant Napier Show. You can check mine out as well. It is usually there at the bottom of the screen for any links, but we'll be posting about that tomorrow. So everybody have a great night. Go Kings. Light the beam. So long for now.